Okay, in this video, I'm just going to describe how I decide what I'm going to look for in a particular night. For example, this weekend, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, maybe Saturday, in my area, look pretty good. So, what am I going to look at? What's in the sky that is observable to me at that time? I plan my nights, and I love this website. It's telescopius.com. Very easy to use. It's free. I have a login. You don't need to log in. I'll show you some of the benefits of this site. They're not paying me to do this. The advertisements are here. Ignore them if you want. This is, like I said, is a totally free site. I'm just here to show you how I would plan my night. Excuse me. So if you go up here, and I am logged in, the screen is very similar if you're not logged in. But if you go up to targets, you click on that, say I want to look at deep sky targets. Brings up a menu over here. Object type. What do you want to look at? I always look at nebula, diffuse nebula. I'll add galaxies in there today. Take planetary nebula out for this. And supernova remnants. We'll start there. A lot of people, if you're visual, and this works for both visual and astrophotography. I use it mainly for astrophotography, but it works for visual also. And we could do clusters of galaxies and clusters of stars. It's all pretty good. So now that I have that selected, and there's also some stuff up here you can tell it when you want it to be visible from. I don't mess with that too much. 10% is pretty low. You'll be able to see over here, and I'll explain that to you, what you can actually see. You can also set it a certain distance from the moon. I have it set to 0. It doesn't really matter right now, but you can do it by apparent brightness. This is good if you want to do visual. You can click on that, and you can set a limit to and from. I like to leave that as much blank as I can, so I can, if you set these numbers and it's outside the boundaries, it won't show up over here. So you can always leave it blank or to the defaults and look at it over here. Now, one thing I should explain, this little button over here, rise time, you can look at things by how high they are, magnitude, which is handy sometimes, especially for visual. You can set it to magnitude and look at what's brightest. Next opposition I won't get into. I like rise time and sometimes set time, but I usually like to look at rise time, and I'll explain why in a minute here. But there's other settings in here you can experiment with. Okay, so let's look at what this does. Now I have it set to rise time, so if you look here, this is considered the rise time. On this bar here, it'll be, you can see, it'll be at 11% up angle at about 825. That's pretty low. I might be able to start looking at things around 25. I could set that to 25 over here, but like I said, I like to look at things and make my own decision, not have the computer make the decision for me. So if you look at this bar, now if I take that off, you see it says transit north. It won't show that with the mouse over it, so you can see transit north. That means you're going to be in the northern part of the sky. There are some things that transit, here's one, transit south, which means you're going to be looking toward the south. So if you have a bad sky, say there's a city to your south, you want to kind of tend to do things transiting north. I do have the city of Lebanon, Pennsylvania to my south, Harrisburg a little to my southwest. So I tend to try and look north. Doesn't always work. And I got filters that I can eliminate the light anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you're doing visual observations, you want to keep in mind you want to look towards the darkest part of the sky, and for visual, the highest part of the sky. So in other words, early in the evening would not be a good time to look at this because you're looking through a ton of atmosphere and it's very low on the horizon. So this is a diffuse nebula. Um, I won't use that as an example. I'm just using this particular one to explain the interface here. Now, if you come to the top, you can see it goes. This particular object goes very high, 84 degrees, just about straight up. And this point here is the meridian flip. This is when you're going to be looking. Um, this is north, so this would be to the east, and then this would be to the west. Now, when you reach this point, if you're doing astrophotography, this is what I consider a danger zone. This is when your cameras and your telescopes start hitting your mount. So if I am doing astrophotography, I have a pretty automated system. If I did this one, I would go to bed probably 10 and get up. It does have the time on there. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning, just to make sure everything went smooth. But this is called the meridian flip. This is when you, instead of looking straight up and slightly to the east, you probably have to spin the telescope, not the mount, but the telescope around and look towards the west later. Now let's go to an object that is pretty good here. And you click on that object, and it'll bring up a picture of it. This is kind of a neat object. I don't know too much about this object, but I'll come back to that maybe. I am actually planning for my next night, so what I'll do is I'll go through the process that I normally go through. Now I want to be able to start when it gets dark. I don't want to wait till 9 o'clock. So if you keep paging down, you'll see that these little humps will generally, let's go to the next page here, will generally move further and further over. So basically, in this case, since I want to start early, it may be better for me to go to start time, or set time. See if that brings them over to the front. There we go. So now I can't really do this one either because it's right at the end. But if you page down from this, it'll slowly move to the right until you find stuff that's good to look at. And I apologize for the delay here. What's the problem here? Okay, let's try page 2. I'm wondering if I just lost the internet or something. Let me refresh that. Okay, let's try that again. I'm still on set time. Sorry about this, guys and girls and guys. There we go. Okay, so now here's a good example. Now this diffuse nebula, this might be a good one to start with. It wouldn't last very long because it's going to get below my usable horizon pretty early. So that would not be the best one to start on. And I don't mind doing a meridian flip. This one isn't too bad. There's a couple things in here that would work. You keep going forward. And you see how they're starting to move further and further to the right. And I'll just keep paging down here. Now you could play with this. Again, it's telescopius.com. Pretty handy. Now here's a good one. Now see, I could set up, and I could start doing this one right around 8:30. That's not a bad one. And then I could run it until probably about 3 in the morning, maybe 2. So let's look at this one. And again, you can see it transits south. So I'm going to be looking south, but it is pretty high. I might lose some of this time over here. I'll have to have a filter in there to make sure that the city lights don't interfere too much. So you go over to the picture here and you click on it. Now you can see this is part of the Veil Nebula cluster, the Veil Nebula cluster. Pretty neat looking. I've taken a lot of pictures of this, so I'm not real interested in this. Probably won't do this one this weekend, but it would be a good one to look at. I mean, you can see this is a pretty bright one. We'll have the magnitude here somewhere. Rise. Here it is. Magnitude 7.0, that's pretty good. You can probably see that one um, through a half-decent telescope, not, you know, the kid brand type, but I won't get into what telescope is best for what. That's another video and a half. But see, that's a good one. I could do this one if I haven't done it so much already. So I'll look at that and I'll say I probably won't do that one. So I'll go back and keep looking. There's a good galaxy. It's a little low for me, and of course it's to the south. That one is probably below my limits, wouldn't be worth my while. So that one I won't even look at too much. And I apologize if I'm skipping through things pretty fast. I mean, you could click on any of this stuff, supernova remnants. They're kind of cool. They can be pretty dark sometimes. And I guess while I'm in here real quick, if you know all the measurements of your telescope, it's called the telescope simulator. This one you will have to log in for. Like I said, it's free, so it doesn't really matter. You could put your gear in here. For example, this is going to be if I'm using my Orion camera, or I'm sorry, my Orion telescope, and my ASI 294. And they let you enter these in, and then it shows you what exactly the area of the sky that you're going to be looking at and what you're going to see. Now, for example, on this one, I have the options of using other telescopes. So if I went to my 51 millimeter Red Cat, you click on that. Now you see I have a much bigger observation area. So this telescope simulator is very handy, and I use it all the time. But we'll go back to my Orion. This one, I could probably do that one. It starts really high, so that's a good one. So what I'm going to do is, what I like to do is write down the options. So I would write this one down. You can see it's IC1318B. If you're doing visual observations, you would have to have some way of getting this in your system. If you have a go-to, it's very easy. A go-to mount. If you have a manual mount, you're going to have a way, maybe an app, a phone, or something like that, that you can put the right ascension in the declination in the approximate area. This is probably something you wouldn't want to look at with a visual observation anyway, so it's not a good example for that. But I would write that one down. Let me find a good galaxy here. You've got a lot of neat stuff in here. Well, that's way too low for me. That's unfortunate. I would love to take a picture of that, but it's just too darn low. So that's fine. I know triangulum is good right now. Let me poke that up here. You can also do search if you're looking for something specific. I just put in there's a triangulum galaxy, and it'll bring that up. That's a nice one. And if you can see, right now, I could do that all night. I'd have to get up around midnight to do the Meridian Flip, but I could run that all night without any issues at all. One of the good things about the telescope simulator is if I go to camera, you can see it doesn't quite fit with this scope and camera setup. So if I go to camera and rotate my camera 90 degrees, which is just like you could spin it 90 degrees in the mount, that pretty much covers everything. So that's actually a pretty good deal. I could get the whole galaxy in using my Orion and my ASI 294. This is one you could do visually. It's pretty bright, 5.7. It's pretty big. You could probably see this one visually. Again, if you had Google Sky Map, I believe it is, you can look at M33 in Google Sky Map. It'll tell you approximately where to look if you're doing visual. You can use that as a guide and get you in the right area. I haven't done visual observations in quite a while. I'm mainly exclusively an astrophotographer at this point. So that's a good one. That shows me I could do this one, and you know what? I just might do this. I mean, I could get 8 o'clock to just about 6. That's 10 hours. I could get 10 hours of pictures on that. That might not be a bad idea. I might actually do that this weekend. I'll write down M33. So I didn't want to get too in depth on this. It just says this is a handy tool for showing you where things are in the sky, if you can see them, how big they are. You can see the Elephant Trunk Nebula. The whole nebula covers 1.5% of the sky, which is, I hope I'm getting this right, approximately I want to say 3 moons. I could be wrong on that. I'm probably making I think the moon is about a fifth of a degree, a half degree. I might be wrong on that though. One of the good ones to look at visually, of course, is Andromeda. Oh, I spelled that wrong. There it is. M31. This is huge. You could see this with the naked eye, and you could see this is also a really good time to look at that one. It's up all night. Really good time to do this one. I could do this too. I could get 10 hours on this one. The pictures up here will show you what ones that other people have loaded, and you can kind of look through. There's some really nice ones, and there's some bad ones too. I get kind of amused sometimes. I mean, okay. I get amused sometimes with some of them that are uploaded. But again, using that one, if I went to my telescope simulator, I would definitely have to use my Red Cat 51 on that. And I could get the whole thing with the Red Cat. I might actually try this one again. I've done this one a few times. I haven't gotten 8-10 hours of it on it though. Yeah, that might not be a bad idea. So again, M31, this one's a good one to look at even through binoculars. You could see this one. But one of the good things I like about this, I can upload my pictures, but you can also, if you're curious what things look like, they have a gallery and it's absolutely huge. It has a little bit of everything in it, and it's got the name of the people that uploaded it. Very neat to look through these. Gives you some good ideas of what kind of astrophotography you can do. That's Bubble Nebula. I have a couple of the Bubble Nebula in mind. I don't think I would have to. Let's try. Let's go back one. I'm just curious if it would bring my picture up here since I'm logged in. Bubble Nebula. Probably not, I would say. California. Okay, that's an okay picture. That's a pretty good picture there. Nice. Nice. That's nice. Yep. It's very neat. It gives you a goal of what you can look at and what things look like from other people's gear and stuff like that. I didn't want to get this too long. I'm approaching 20 minutes. Again, this is telescopius.com. I think I'm pronouncing that right. But very handy. And I use this every time I do astrophotography to see what my possibilities are. There's the Pleiades. You can see that one visually also. You could put, if you know how bright you're looking for, let's see if it has visual in here. Yeah, it does. See, you could do binoculars. You could go down to pupil naked eye. You could set that to 6. And this is the things you should be able to see visually. again, play with it. This is a lot of fun. This is a good one to do in the wintertime. I'm sorry, in the summertime. Okay, if you like this video, this is pretty an informal one. I just wanted to introduce to the newer people mostly, but in case you the well-established astrophotographers who have never heard of telescopias, very handy. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. If you have any questions about it, leave it in the comments. I promise I'll answer it as best I can. If you're new to this, this is a good one to play with. You can't break anything. It's just a website. It's pretty neat. And again, if you like it, subscribe or leave me a comment. Thanks.